Good day, fellow women and gentlemen. Matthew here. Ever wondered how life would be back in ye olden days? The days in which smoking was healthy, suits were mandatory, and hitting your wife a fun exercise. Done with your busy day of adultery and illegal gambling? Well, nothing beats that incoming hangover than to see your wife cooking a meal in the kitchen with a black eye and teaching your son the fine art of drinking while underaged. Sounds like a dream? Hopefully not at all, you weirdo. But let's still find out how people go about their usual day in this sort of review, but also Easter eggs in Mafia, the definitive edition. Beware of spoilers.
So Mafia is a franchise that's been around for quite a while now. As I've said in my first impressions video, which you can find right here by the way, the first one released all the way back in 2002. Since then, the second game has grown out to be a fan favorite, and the third one, well, not so much. A lot of people thought that the third one was actually so bad that it would be the end for the whole franchise. So you can understand the surprise when all of a sudden publisher 2K and developer Hangar 13 came out with news of the definitive edition trilogy. All three games with a new coat of paint and put together in one big package. Mafia 3 came out first and it was pretty much still the same boring game. Mafia 2 came out and they somehow managed to make this version run worse than the original. So all hopes were pinned on the Mafia 1 remake, and when looking at the screenshots, there was nothing to worry about, because it looked really good. But could it live up to some of the expectations? Would it make up for the disappointment of the other games? Well, let's just start at the beginning, and before I go into the game's details, let's talk about the story. The story starts in 1938, and we see our main character, Tommy Angelo, in a bar waiting for a cop. This man is just one of the many lawmen that is trying to put a stop to the huge wave of crime that has been hitting the city of Lost Heaven, the city based on New York, Chicago and San Francisco, where this story is taking place. Why Tommy agreed to meet this man is not established at this point yet, because you play through Tommy's flashbacks. Starting at his first flashback, we see Tommy, who back then was still working as a cab driver. It was a pretty normal night, right before an armed man and his buddy get into the cab and tell Tommy to drive, since they're being followed by some other guys. After getting them to safety, they reveal that they are working for a man called
Salieri,
or as you're going to get to know him, Don Salieri. Long story short, Tommy did the Don a favor by helping his men, so Tommy is now on the Don's good side.
Don Salieri wants you to know that he's very grateful.
Not much later, Tommy gets in some trouble for saving the two men, and he makes his way over to the Don. Don Salieri has an offer he can't refuse. So Tommy pretty much just agrees to work for the Don together with two other guys, which are actually the guys you saved. They're called Sam
Trapani,
and Paulie.
Lombardo.
Don Salieri and his men have been in this pretty big mob war against pretty much every other mob there is, but mostly with this guy called
Marco Morello,
an old friend of the Don who is not a fan of fender benders. As I said in my first impressions video, and yes, I will refer to that video more in this one, the game takes its time to let you get familiar with the game mechanics, the story, and the characters, and I still agree with that statement, or at least at the start of the game, because the first few missions you do exactly that. You get to know the family, mainly your upcoming love interest Sarah, you do some driving, you do some beating, you do some more driving, and then you do some blowing up a hotel, escaping through the rooftops, crashing someone's funeral, kill everyone there and make away in the hearse. You know, casual Tuesday kind of stuff. So yeah, the game starts off slow, but before you know it, you're pretty much getting shot from all sides, killing innocent people, robbing banks and shooting airplanes out of the sky. I mean, can it get any crazier? What's next? Aliens? Yeah. Okay, back to the story. So Paulie, Sam and Tommy are well on their way to become the Don's favorite boys. They manage to get a good amount of work done, you know, murdering and stealing and stuff like that. But throughout all that murdering and stealing, you actually start to connect with these guys. They really start to become your family. However, you're still in the Mafia. And the Mafia isn't really known for their kind demeanor or their great recipes for spaghetti. No, actually, they're pretty well known for backstabbing. So whoever you work with, whatever you do, you always have the feeling that someone might turn out to be the bad guy or something. At some point, you realize that Frank
Coletti,
trusty
consiglieri,
and friend of the Don, has been doing things behind the Don's back. So you follow him, and it turns out that he pretty much just wanted to retire, so you let him live and he moves with his wife and child to Europe. A little later, you and the Don pay a visit to Pepe's restaurant. And what happens then is pretty much...
Get down!
So of course this was a setup, but who could have been responsible? This might actually be the moment you realize Sam or Paulie have been traitors all along. But no, it's actually this guy called Carlo, and you will probably not recognize him in any mission, and you definitely won't recognize him after this one. So at least you know who the traitor was. And that's it, right? All traitors gone, no more lies, time to murder everyone and be a great little family together? Right? And that's when Paulie asks you to do something a bit smelly. He wants to rob a bank with you, but without the Don knowing anything about it. Kinda suspicious. Sounds like something a traitor would say, right? So you do help him, not expecting you guys to survive, but you actually do, and now you have a buttload of money. Cool, you can take Sarah out to dinner and Paulie can retire and find a wife or something. Paulie wants to keep the money in his house and tells you you can come back tomorrow to split the earnings. Classic traitor trope, right? But you still go home and come back the next day and he's not going to be there. I mean, obviously, he left with all the money and you're now broke and... oh, never mind, he just got killed.
Ah, Jesus.
Turns out Paulie is not a traitor and Sam is the one who ratted you out to the Don. He told the Don about the robbery, about Frank fleeing to Europe, and about a girl that you also helped while you should have killed her. That was in my opinion so irrelevant to the story I even forgot to tell you it ever happened. And that's when you chase down Sam through the Lost Heaven art gallery, shoot him, and the story cuts back to Tom and the cop in the bar. You told everything you could have told him, and the cop is more than enough information to bring down Don Salieri's crime empire. And you get to live life as a free man, together with your wife and kid. You get to give your daughter away at the altar, and you and Sarah grow old in a nice white picket fence neighborhood. Except one day, Tommy's past comes chasing after him, and he finally gets the ending I pretty much expected him to get a lot earlier.
Mr. Angelo. Yes. Mr. Salieri sends his regards.
He gets shot down in his own front lawn and dies in the arms of his family. The end, right? Well, not exactly, because who are these mysterious guys who shot Tommy? Well, in 2002, when they looked like this, it would probably be a much bigger mystery. But nowadays we know that these guys are actually Vito and Joe, Vito being the main protagonist of Mafia 2. And that's pretty much the story, which has luckily remained intact from the original, but also got some addition in order to flesh out the characters some more. I do think that this is a very good story, but the nice slow pacing of the beginning hours pretty quickly turns into pretty absurd chaos after a while. Especially when Tommy talks about things that can get him some serious time behind bars. While in the mission prior, you just shot an airplane out of the sky. The biggest difference in the story in contrast to the original is the fact that you get significantly more time with love interest Sarah, even with a complete new mission dedicated to her. And I think that you can see these kinds of improvements throughout the whole game. It's all the same, but now very good looking and a lot more of it. And it definitely is good looking. Developer Hangar 13 did a great job to make sure that this world feels alive and realistic. Especially in the story mode, it's cool to see things outside the missions that are taking place, like big groups of people who are on a strike, the cops setting up roadblocks when there has been a traffic accident, or the cops pulling people over to the side of the road. You can also see tiny details change in the world, because at the end of the story, you're later on in time than at the beginning of the story. For instance, new models of taxis. All these small things can be spotted throughout the story mode, and I will talk more about these moments in the Easter eggs part of this video. I already said it in my first impressions video, but this game bears a lot of resemblances with Mafia 3. But I think you can easily compare it with LA Noire as well. Cars have the same sort of clunky feel to them as they had in that game, but that is mostly because of one thing I also already talked about in my first impressions video. And that one thing is the classic difficulty. Classic difficulty is the most difficult way to play the game, but it is definitely the way to go. In other games, playing the hardest difficulty mostly boils down to less health, enemies do more damage, and you do less damage. But in this game it's much more than that. For instance, cops will be a lot more aggressive, so you will get pulled to the side of the road when you're speeding, driving recklessly, driving into people, or even when you're driving a stolen vehicle. Apart from that, weapons are also more unreliable, you don't get aim assist, and as I said before, cars drive a lot more clunky. You definitely notice this change in car physics classics when you're doing the notorious race mission, where I really felt the frustration of having to do this race over and over on classic difficulty, but of course feeling a lot of satisfaction when I finally made it. Was it really underwhelming when I easily got first place when playing on easy? This game definitely feels less rewarding when you're playing on a lower difficulty. Apart from that, not everything is great in this difficulty, and I do have some recommendations. Please do yourself a favor and play this game with mouse and keyboard if you have the option. There were moments in this game where I just couldn't get through because of the weird weapon sway and not having aim assist on a controller. Things were significantly easier when I started using my mouse and keyboard. When you use that, you should definitely play the story on classic. After the story, you should just go to the options and put that difficulty right back to easy or normal, because when the story ends, that's when the real grind is starting. A thing that made it very obvious that I'm still just playing a game from 2002 was when I realized that you have a story mode and a free ride mode. No random driving in this world and doing a mission when you feel like it, like in, well, pretty much every other open world game at this point, but a separate sandbox in which you can explore the world freely. Not that much of a problem, it's when you start the free ride mode when the problems start. In free ride there are a lot of things to do. Some side missions, some collectibles, some rare cars you can collect. The usual stuff you find in most open world games nowadays. It's all fine, and of course finding all of them is normally already kind of a grind, but in this game, none of the collectibles are marked on your map. Now after playing the game I found out this is normal for a Mafia game, but god is it annoying. This pretty much takes doing everything in this game from, oh yeah sure I'll do these things and I can get all the achievements, to,
what do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
I had to look up everything the first time I started free ride, because things like side missions are also not marked anywhere, so you just have to guess what you have to do or something. But when you finally know what to do, that's when you're going to notice why I recommended putting the game on easy or normal. Some of these side missions are so goddamn difficult. Seriously, the internet had prepared me for the race mission, but some of them make this race feel like Mario Kart and 50cc. If you didn't already die from gunfire, you will most definitely run out of time in most of these things. And it doesn't even feel like a nice challenge with some good rewards afterward. It just feels like you're purposely making the game unfair for yourself. And I know some people will say, it's not that difficult, I did it in one try. But I seriously started throwing shit after I had to chase the goddamn UFO for the 20th time, or dump the cars in the water. I've literally killed hundreds of people.
Just blow the fucking car up right here.
So yeah, this game is definitely kind of a grind in the end, if you want to 100% it. I did do it, and it took me around 35 hours, so it's not that bad. It's just a matter of, are you willing to put up with it? So you took your time to actually realize that the small notes in Salieri's bar trigger side missions. You found Herbert Baskerville, you found every single collectible. What now? Well, not much actually. After finishing the game, that's pretty much it. There aren't any side activities in the game, and the attention to detail from the story mode is still present, but in much lower numbers. For instance, the cops blocking the road, or the strikes taking place, which I talked about during the story, are nowhere to be seen in free ride, which directly made that feel a lot more scripted than I thought it was. So after finding everything, the world's pretty much empty, but there is some hope. Just a few days ago the first update came out, which added a noir mode, but also custom races and taxi missions for the free ride mode. Hey guys, it's me from the future here, with a quick side note. While I was recording this voiceover, I hadn't actually played the racing yet. Afterwards I actually did, and it turns out to be a lot of fun, because it's not just custom racing, but it's also racing with power-ups. For instance, you can like spill oil on the track, and use dynamite and machine guns and even speed boosts. So these races are a lot more fun than I thought at first, so I definitely recommend you checking it out. But now let's get back to the video. So I'm just hoping that they will keep adding these kinds of things to make the world a bit more fun to be in, even after completing the game. Now normally I'd use a bit more time in my videos to talk about the performance of the game, but this time I don't need to. This game runs absolutely great in my experience. I only had one weird crash after a side mission where you have to ride a bike. but it only occurred twice and then everything was fine. This was definitely a welcome surprise after the complete shitstorm that was Marvel's Avengers. As always, now it's time for the Easter eggs. And again, the game doesn't disappoint here. There are a lot of references to Mafia related movies, games and of course the actual Mafia. But as I said during the story part of this video, the game is filled with tiny little details you can find throughout the story mode, which are definitely worth talking about. I wanted to start off this part of the video with all these tiny details and all references I could find in the story mode. The very first mission is called An Offer You Can't Refuse. An obvious reference to the Godfather.
Hollywood big shot's gonna give you what you want.
It's too late. They start shooting in a week.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
However, I found two more movie references around the start of the game. First of all, during this mission you'll hear the Wilhelm scream. I've already explained what the Wilhelm scream is in my Horizon Zero Dawn video. So if you want to know more about it, please go and watch that video. Then around the start of the game I found my first Pulp magazine, which are some of the collectibles you can find in this game. When finding this very first one, you'll get this achievement. Pulp Fiction is of course the 1997 Quentin Tarantino movie. Next up we're gonna get a bit more classy. In chapter 4, Ordinary Routine, you can find a guy taking a shit.
Got him!
Hilarious. So after you're done laughing at this poopy humor, continue throughout the mission. At the end of this chapter you normally end up in a car chase. However, when you arrive at the motel, the getaway vehicle is parked outside. If you shoot it before going into the motel, this whole car chase can be skipped and you can kill the enemy on sight. In chapter 5, Fair Play, yes, the one where you do the race, you're tasked with stealing your opponent's car in order to sabotage it before the race. When stealing the car, you can find a guy standing on the bridge ready to jump. There are people around who are trying to convince him not to jump, and you definitely shouldn't scare him by honking, for instance, because then...
Sorry!
If you get out of your vehicle, you can find a note explaining the reason why he wanted to jump. Moving on in this chapter, during the race you can see that the sabotage was successful and your opponent is out of the race. After winning, you can walk around backstage and celebrate your victory. However, your opponent is not as fortunate as you are. Finally, at the end of this chapter, you're tasked with driving Paulie home because he is way too drunk to drive himself. Although the objective says drive Paulie home, Paulie keeps asking if you can take him to a place called the Blue Tropics.
Tom, I want to go with the lady. I'm not helping you with that today. Take me to the ladies! Take me to the Blue Tropics. I don't know, I ought to take you home. The bridge! Take the bridge over to the island! Take me to the ladies!
What's not stated as an objective is that you can actually drive him there.
Taking you home seems more classy. Alright, now we're talking. Oh boy. You should see these dames, Tom. Ooh-hoo-hoo. I'll leave it to you to swim with the barracudas, Polly. You're gonna have to tell me where the hell I'm driving. You don't know? I don't know. There's a blue sign. Gonna need more than that. There's a blue sign and it says Blue Tropics and it's right near the docks. Figures. Check a map or something. That's it. That's the place. See? The blue sign. Thank Christ. Girls, it's me, Paulie! Ah, jeez. Sweet dreams, tough guy.
When playing the chapter The Saint and the Sinner, near the end of the hotel segment, you can find the following room.
It's not what it looks like.
Fun fact, this clown can be found again in a side mission called Pennies from Hell, and can also be found in Mafia 3, in the mission Evil That Men Do. Here you learn that the guy is called Captain Pennies. As if we didn't have too much IT references already, yes, this is probably a Pennywise reference.
Ah, sorry.
Also, the hotel this is taking place in is called the Corleone Hotel, which could be a reference to Don Corleone from the Godfather movies, or it's the region Corleone on Sicily, where the Mafia first turned up in real life. As I've already told you in this video, the game is made by developer Hangar 13. A fun little reference to the developer can be found in the chapter Omerta. On the airfield there's actually a hangar numbered 13. In the chapter Great Deal, you'll drive to a parking lot in which you have to make a deal on buying whiskey. When entering the parking lot, Polly tells a little story about the guy who's guarding the entrance.
I do a lot of deals here. Parking attendant don't ask for much dough. Always closes up shop till I'm done.
When playing through the mission, you'll be ambushed and shit hits the fan. When making your way down the parking lot again and going into the tiny office downstairs, you'll see that the guy in the office got shot. I think this is a cool little detail, since they could also just have chosen to let the character disappear instead, but they took the time to add the dead body here. On the chapter Happy Birthday, you'll board the Lost Heaven Queen, but before you board the ship, you can overhear this conversation.
Terrence! You got an invite too? Oh, did you hear there's gonna be fireworks?
Dottie, yes,
Who is this, Terrence? I'm not sure we've been introduced.
Dorothy, this is my wife, Barbara.
Oh, sure you are. Heard all about you.
So it definitely sounds like this man is having an affair. When boarding the ship, you can again overhear a conversation between the man and his wife.
Who is she, Terrence?
Just some girl I met.
I shouldn't have looked. Where did you meet her? How do you know someone who
Younger girls.
dresses like that?
So much noise.
After the conversation, you can follow the woman to hear some more dialogue.
Why, Terrence? Why do this to me? And why now?
In the chapter Election Campaign, you're tasked with killing an important political figure while sniping from a guard tower in an old prison. While making your way through the prison, while in the sewers, you can come across this man.
Have you seen my rat?
So the guy lost his pet rat, and you're in a prison. So this might be a reference to the movie The Green Mile, in which the character John Coffey is also locked up in a prison and owns a rodent. And the final thing I could find in the story mode is in the same mission. While making your way through the prison, you'll encounter a prison cell containing a little doll in the corner. Walk a bit further and you encounter an electric chair. If you hit the electric chair, you will hear creepy girls laugh, and when returning to the prison cell, you'll see the doll disappear. Quick side note, you can also find this doll in several more locations, for instance in the final mission. And now for all the things I could find in the free ride mode. First off, a quick reference to the story mode. In the chapter Omerta, you spare Frank's life and let him flee to Europe with his family. However, as you progress through the game, you'll find out that Frank has been caught in Europe and executed by acquaintances of Don Salieri. However, in the story, you can see Frank's funeral, probably with empty graves of course. But in free ride mode, you can still find these graves on the cemetery. Up next, when going to the far southeastern corner of the map, you'll end up near the lighthouse. When looking over the water from here, you can see a big ship in the distance. This ship is the Titanic. Now, am I absolutely sure that this is the Titanic? No, not at all, because the game takes place in the 1930s and the Titanic sank in 1912. But in Mafia 2, you had a similar Easter egg while taking place in the 1950s. And this game also includes aliens, so please take everything with a grain of salt here. Speaking of these aliens, you can see the alien side mission as an Easter egg on itself, but I actually want to take a look at the end of this mission, because after you destroy the UFO, two men come over, the screen flashes white, and you'll be back where you started. This is a reference to Men in Black and their neuralizer, a gadget they use to wipe people's memories. Also, little fun fact, again, I'm full of fun facts and side notes today. The car they're driving is called the Manta prototype, which you can find as a hidden vehicle in this game. This car is based on the real-life Phantom Corsair, which can also be found in LA Noire as a hidden vehicle. In this game you'll have the opportunity to collect several different outfits. Some of them can be unlocked by playing the story, but the more goofy looking ones are unlocked by completing side missions. For instance, the alien outfit and the clown outfit. But the most challenging one to unlock has you completing all the side missions in order to trigger the very last side mission. You see, all the side missions are instigated by a character called Herbert Baskerville. When completing all side missions, you trigger a mission in which Herbert finally reveals himself to be a guy wearing a dog mask. After completing the mission, you'll get this outfit yourself. This outfit is actually a reference to the original Mafia, because back in the day some low performance PCs caused the game to glitch out and change characters' heads into dogs' heads. As far as the collectibles go, you can find these cigarette cards throughout the game. These are all well-known characters from the complete Mafia series. Not only guys from this game like Tommy, Sam and Paulie, but also for instance Sal Marcano, main antagonist of Mafia 3. Not really a collectible, but still something you can find in the free ride mode. Throughout the city you'll find these wanted posters. On here you can see real life pictures of what I guess are mostly game developers. Now what I think is strange is that the wanted posters actually were collectibles in Mafia 2, so I wonder why they didn't make it collectibles in this one. The very first side mission you have to do is called Crazy Horse, which unlocks the first unlockable car, also called the Crazy Horse. The name is probably a reference to two things. One of them is from the TV series The Sopranos, in which the character Christopher, his girlfriend, owns a bar called the Crazy Horse. The second one is from a mission in Mafia 2.
I got Derek's guy Steve here with me, and we were just talking about what to do with those punks. We're gonna take care of them now. Steve will meet you at the Crazy Horse. You know it?
Okay, Crazy Horse, yeah, I know where it is.
In this mission you have to kill a bunch of greasers and destroy their bar. This bar is also called the Crazy Horse. At the end of this mission you'll have to steal one of their cars, which is a very similar vehicle to the Crazy Horse in Mafia's Definitive Edition. Apart from the free ride mode being pretty empty after completing this game, you can find some nice hidden things in the game. For instance, there's one place, as far as I know at least, where you can enter the train tracks, and there's one place where you can get on a boat and make little boat trips through Lost Heaven. Finally, a quick little attention to detail, which I really still wanted to show. When shooting people, they react in different sort of ways. Sometimes they slowly die, sometimes they cling onto a nearby vehicle, but very rarely they actually flip you off right before biting the bullet. And that's pretty much it for this video. I had a lot of fun in this game, especially because of the attention to detail, which makes you want to look for all those cool little moments. And as far as all the bad things go in this game, it's not that bad and it's still a really cool game to play, so I definitely recommend it. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification button to stay up to date with all my videos. And I really hope to see you in the next one. Bye!